Right, so as you can see, I've had my yearly haircut and today it's Colin the Caterpillar's turn. Now, Colin the Caterpillar is a box hedge, and as you can see, he's quite a quirky character, and myself and the team always look forward to giving him his annual trim. So we've got all the gear ready. I've got my power trimmers. This is the long-handled version, which is great for getting right across the arches of Colin's back. I've got a good rake for raking up, although we shouldn't need to do much raking because I always put a tarpaulin down and let the clippings fall onto that, and then you can just bundle it up and tip the clippings straight onto the compost heap. I've also got a really good pair of sharp shears that I got from lovegardening.com, and they're great for getting into all the little nooks and crannies down Colin's back, and also for trimming round his eye and round his mouth. Cool, so that's all the stuff we need. We've also got a bit of feed in a watering can, but we'll have a look at that later, so it's time to get cracking. Right, so I've got one of my team, Kirsty, helping today, and we're just going to chuck this tarpaulin out under the hedge. Right, that'll do. There we go. So by putting it under the hedge like this, it allows all the clippings to fall onto the tarpaulin, and then you can just bundle everything up and take it straight to the compost heap with minimal tidying. Right, so I've got my two-stroke power trimmers. From a health and safety point of view, they're great because the blades are about 4 or 5 feet away from my body, which means there's not much chance of me cutting my fingers off. However, from a health and safety point of view, I have got my trusty ear defenders because I don't want to damage my hearing, and this is quite a noisy machine. I'm going to start cutting the top, so let's get cracking. So if I was cutting a standard hedge with straight sides and a flat top, I'd always do the sides first and the top last, because by cutting the sides you can get that bit closer to the hedge and it makes doing the top easier. But for this hedge, I always find it much easier to start at the top and work my way down the curves. I really do love using this long reach power trimmer because not only does it rule out ladders, which can be a bit of a dodgy thing re health and safety, it just allows me to follow the curves of the hedge beautifully. So as you can see, I'm doing the bulk of the cutting with the power trimmers. It's not the refined finish that we want, but it gets a lot of the thick growth off, and then we just need to go refine it with the hand shears. Now, when you're cutting a hedge like this, it's always good to make sure you get into this really deep glossy green foliage, because that is last year's foliage, and it means you've cut all of this year's growth off and your hedge isn't slowly but surely going to get bigger. So the only problem with the power shears is you can't quite get into all the nooks and crannies, and as you can see, our Colin's got quite a few cleavages. So that's when you pull out your nice sharp hand shears and you just get into the cracks and cut out that bum fluff. And the hand shears are perfect for just making those last little refinements, like cutting round his eye and making sure he's got a nice big cheesy grin. What's great about these Barnell shears is they've got a lovely curve to them, and when you're doing something like Colin, or even if it's just a nice box ball, to actually turn them round and use them back to front, and then those lovely nice sharp points are just great for getting in and shaping up that eye. Right, so we've got the bulk of this section done now, and as you can see, all the clippings have fallen down onto the tarpaulin, and that's going to make tidying up a heck of a lot easier. I just need to give him a quick blow dry now, just to make sure that any stray clippings that are still left up on the hedge come down onto that tarpaulin, and then it's away to the compost heap. We'll just get this bundled up, take all the clippings into the middle. There we go, I'll give you that. Cool. Right, so that's it for the trimming, and whilst Kirsty refines things and does the tidying up, I'm going to give Colin the caterpillar a real treat. I've got some seaweed tonic for him. Now the seaweed tonic is really good for this kind of shrub. It helps him keep healthy, but without stimulating too much growth and you're having to trim him more often than you'd want to. Now, something that box suffers from is a thing called box blight. It's a fungal disease and it infects shrubs that are particularly unhealthy. Colin's never had box blight, and touch wood, I'm hoping he never will get it. But just to make sure, that's why I give him some seaweed every year. So, I've got my watering can of water. There's 9 litres in there. And I just need to put 4 capfuls of this seaweed in there. So, there we go. And give the can a bit of a shake. There's no need to have a rose on your can or anything. You just need to make sure it's nice and diluted in the water, and then it's just a case of just absolutely blathering it on him, like this. Now some people would pour it around the roots of a shrub, which is not a bad thing to do, but by actually putting it on the foliage like this, you actually allow it to get into the plant through the foliage, and it also allows the feed to just work its way down every time it rains and slowly feed the roots that way. And that ensures that the bulk of the fertiliser doesn't get washed away by the first rainfall we have. So there we go, that's Colin trimmed up for another year. If you've enjoyed watching what we've done here, then please go to the website lovegardening.com and check out some of the other programmes we've made. Or if you just want a bit of advice or a few tips, please do not hesitate to get in touch with the media team at lovegardening.com.